What's up guys, Next Tech here, and in this video I'm going to be doing a hardware comparison between the Google Nexus 7 on the left and the iPad mini on the right. So let's just dive straight into these stats. The Nexus 7 comes in at 10.5 millimeters thick, whereas the iPad mini comes in at 7.2. And you will notice a difference. The Nexus 7 is just thicker. If I put a profile view of it here, you can see the differences. The iPad is just a lot sleeker, a lot thinner design compared to the Nexus 7, which in comparison does feel a little bit thick compared to the iPad mini. But it's not awful. And if I put them on the table, you can actually notice the iPad kind of sticks up from the table rather than the iPad mini that's kind of flush to it. There is a definite difference in thickness, and you can see you can kind of fit the iPad underneath the 7. So yeah, in terms of weight, you've got 340 grams for the 7 versus 308. Now, yes, this is a thinner, lighter tablet, but I've got to say, in terms of weight, you really don't notice a difference. Sometimes the iPad feels a little bit heavy. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just the shape, the design. Who knows? I don't know, but you really can't tell a difference in terms of the weight. Now, what really matters with tablets this size is the screen, the aspect ratio, and all that stuff. So let's talk about that. We've got a 7-inch tablet over here diagonally, and the iPad mini is actually a 7.9-inch tablet. So pretty much an 8-inch tablet over here. And what you'll notice is, even though they are quite similar in terms of the actual size of the screen, they look completely different, and that's because of the aspect ratio. The iPad over here has a 4:3 aspect ratio, which I believe is great for stuff like pictures and websites, but kind of crappy for stuff like movies. Over here, you've got kind of a longer screen, a wide screen basically, and its aspect ratio is 16:10 or 16:9 without the on-screen buttons. And although that's not great for stuff like web browsing, it's brilliant for movies. You don't get any black bars that you do on the iPad, and I'll show that in a different video. So yeah, it really depends what you're going to want out of the two. In terms of screen resolution, the Google Nexus 7 comes in with a resolution of 1280 by 800, so a HD resolution over there, and the iPad mini comes in at 1024 by 768. So not high resolution from the iPad mini, definitely not as high as the Google Nexus 7. And in terms of the pixels per inch, we've got 216 over here on the Nexus 7 and 162 on the iPad mini. So no Retina display over here. And I've got to say, in my testings, I have noticed a difference. I do prefer the screen on the Nexus 7. It's clearer, it's sharper. Sometimes images over here on websites seem a little bit blurred, a little bit pixelated. So that is something to take into account. The screen is just not as good. But yeah, in terms of overall design, I've got to say, in terms of design, I'm giving it to the mini. Just looking at these two here, you've got the kind of the big bezel around here. Kind of looks a little bit old-fashioned now compared to, say, this, with its really sleek design, really thin bezels here. And it just looks kind of nice compared to the Nexus 7. I'm not saying the Nexus 7 looks horrible, but I just think the iPad mini wins in terms of design. Now, in terms of storage, the Nexus 7 comes at 16 and 32 gigabyte versions with 1 gigabyte of RAM. The iPad mini comes in 16, 32 and 64 gigabyte versions, but with only 512 megabytes of RAM. So not as heavy on the multitasking over here on the mini compared to the 7. Both come with, these two are both Wi-Fi only models, but you can get data plans. They're probably £100 over the standard price. So yeah. Front-facing cameras, we've got a 1.2 megapixel on the Nexus 7 versus a 1.2 megapixel again on the iPad mini on the front. Both are capable of shooting 720p. The advantage of the iPad mini is it actually has a 5 megapixel rear-facing camera, which is capable of shooting 1080p. There is no such camera on the Nexus 7. You can see just blank space here. So that is something to note. If you want a rear-facing camera on your small tablet, you have to go with the iPad mini if you're picking between these two. Obviously, we've got iOS 6 over here versus Jelly Bean. That's a different story for a different video. In terms of processors, now this is where it gets a bit interesting. The iPad mini comes in with the dual-core 1 GHz Cortex A9. It's actually the A5 chip, which is what they had in the iPad 2. and a downclocked and it's also in the iPod Touch 5G, but that's a downclocked version to 800 megahertz. In terms of performance, iOS isn't very heavy, so it performs fine. Games perform excellent from the GPU that you get. And if you want to go test out my gaming video, please do that, because it does really perform well. And over here on the Nexus 7, we actually get an NVIDIA Tegra 3, which is a quad-core 1.2 or 1.3, I forget, gigahertz CPU. So you actually get a quad-core CPU over here, which is really nice. You also get the ULP GeForce graphics card, so you can get all the Tegra games on here that sometimes you can't get on other Android devices. And I'll be doing a gaming comparison video between the two. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Next up, guys, we're going to be talking about the price. This is pretty much what everyone cares about. Now, these two actually aren't identical. I've actually got the 32 gigabyte model of the Nexus 7 and the 16 gigabyte iPad. So let's just pretend this is a 16 gigabyte model at the moment. You can actually get the 16 gigabyte Wi-Fi Nexus 7 from Google Play Store for a small £159, which I think is an amazing price. 159 for 16 gigabyte Wi-Fi model. The equivalent iPad mini is £269. So it's over £100 more just because it's Apple. And that kind of sucks, right? Now, this model, the 32 gigabyte that's here, is actually £199 from Google Play. If you want the equivalent in the iPad mini, you have to go ahead and shell out £349. That is crazy talk. There is no different, it shouldn't be such a big price point. I think the iPad mini is overpriced. Over here, you're getting a quad core processor, a better screen, and it's really nice for the price you get. They really priced this beautifully, I think. And I think I couldn't buy a 32 gigabyte iPad mini for $349. It's just too damn expensive. So if you're taking them both to be 16, that is £159 versus £269. So a major difference in the price point between the two devices. Both are very good devices, and I think both have their own points. Depends whether you want to pay the Apple Premium over here. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much my hardware review. So yeah, see you guys later.